Hello, and welcome to Emerald Thoth with me, Mark. Hope you're all doing well today. So, a few messages before we start today. There's been a lot of signs I've had over the last week. I haven't really mentioned on some of the previous videos, but I've been seeing dragonflies recently, the last few months actually, but particularly this week, I'd seen a pair of dragonflies in the park, which I haven't really ever seen. Not really near a park or in a park, and not really in pairs. So I saw a pair of dragonflies. They were green dragonflies, talking about the heart chakra, heart opening. And then yesterday I saw 3 dragonflies in the park. One was black and yellow, so a yellow ringtail dragonfly, and 2 of them were blue. Now blue relates a lot to the spirituality. The black and yellow probably talks about grounding the solar plexus, so standing in your power, grounding your power. And dragonflies generally represent enlightenment. They represent joy, and they represent transcendence, really. So there's a very spiritual element to them as animals, and largely because they're in the kind of shadows, they're in the darkness, under the water when they're larvae, and they just come out and they rise above the water, and then these beautiful creatures that move quite uniquely. And the way they move and the way they operate in the world is quite unique and rare and special. And so you could feel that you're coming to this sense of enlightenment. You're coming out from underneath the waters. The other sign I've seen, again, in the last few months, in general, the ladybirds. And today, my green trousers were hanging up on the washing line, and there was a ladybird just there, a red ladybird. You can often see them in red or yellow or orange, relating to the bottom 3 chakras. So this could be a sense of grounding yourself, but they also represent luck and abundance and prosperity. They're very lucky signs. And if you see a red one, like I saw today, it can represent luck in love as well. Yellow is to do with joy, and orange is to do with expression. So dragonflies or ladybirds may be signs for you. You may see them around. One may come to you and give you that sign of even that transcendence and enlightenment, or that sense of abundance and luck coming your way. And this is the way that the universe speaks to us, through nature, which is the most divine thing we know, is nature. So the other thing, and the other sign, is that Lord Shiva has been coming to me. And over the last few days I've done a bit of research, understood more. He's actually on the wallpaper of this device that I'm recording from, known as the Destroyer. But Lord Shiva is quite interesting, and especially when he's incarnated as Shiva. He has about 19 avatars, but they're not all so well known. Hanuman's probably one of the most well known. One of his avatars is Nandi, is also the bull that is his protector. As well as being the destroyer, he's also kind of light from the void. He's also the light and the shadow from the void. Coming from the void is very much what Shiva is. And it's interesting that in his incarnation, when we talk about Shiva as a being on Earth, obviously links to aliens and starseeds, which is likely part of his origins as well, but talking about Shiva as a divine being and then incarnated on Earth as Lord Shiva, he meditated a lot in this pose with the legs crossed. It's very interesting that he was in the world at that time, but not so much of it. He would meditate often in Mount Kailash. This is where there's a place in India, obviously, where his base was, and he didn't really get involved too much in human affairs, and he'd often be meditating. And the only times that he was really drawn into the world was from his divine partner. So there could be a divine partner for you coming in. There could be a divine counterpart to inflame, an eternal soulmate, whichever resonance you want to talk about, but deep soul recognition of somebody coming in. Because Shakti is the divine feminine of Lord Shiva, the divine masculine, and when she was incarnated as Parvati, and before that, I always get this one wrong, Sati, S-A-T-I. So she'd incarnated as Sati, who, when she saw Lord Shiva, had recognised that was her divine purpose. She had dreams about him before, and then this kind of ascetic, again A-S-C-E-T-I-C, so this kind of monk-like being, which Lord Shiva was. Lord Shiva, being all-powerful and this destructor and creator, didn't spend his time in palaces, didn't spend his time, going around as all these kind of different avatars, such as like Vishnu would have done, or not completely out of it, like Brahma He's often quite away from things as creator, God. He will spend most of his time meditating. You often see him with an indication of the third eye, which is how he often had his connection. But when he saw Sati, he recognised the divine counterpart, and they were together. Now, unfortunately, Sati's father didn't quite like Shiva because he was not materialistic. He wasn't trying to play up or impress anyone. And when Shiva had been to his court one time, he had him bow down to the king. He was a king and had come from Lord Brahma. Was not necessarily an incarnation, but was formed from Brahma. And he was about law and order, and Shiva was an ascetic. He was like a monk. He's Adna Yogi, one of the first yogis, one of the beings that brought yoga to this planet. And so Sati realizes that there's a big event, I can't remember the Indian name for this, but it's basically giving prayers to the fire, and all the kind of important yogis, all the important spiritual teachers, political people were there, but she realized herself and Shiva weren't invited, and Shiva was not fussed. But he urged her to leave it and not to bother. You don't need to be part of the crowd. But Sati wasn't happy and went to the party. And she became incensed when she saw that her father had basically put this figure to this person dressed as Shiva to greet guests. But it was a mockery of Shiva and who he was. And she got incensed with rage. She was very devoted to Shiva and the story of how they met. And I mean, the divine counterparts, and that's the kind of reaction you get from that connection. And she was so incensed by this creation, everybody was laughing, and that they didn't know the real Shiva or the level of power that he had. We'll find out in a minute why that's a mistake. But she immolated herself. She left this realm, and she was so furious and incensed about this mockery of her divine counterpart that she basically left the earthly realm. And then some of his itinerants, some of his devotees had been to this event and come back to Lord Shiva, and they were all quiet as mice. When Shiva saw them, he was like, what's happened? And he could sense that something was being withheld from him. And then he asked where Sati is, and then he asked one of his devotees what happened. And the devotee said she'd left this realm. And literally all hell broke loose. All kinds of beings that were kind of one incarnation of Shiva went into the palace, beheaded Sati's father, the king, and just unleashed hell in a rage until he kind of calmed down. His devotees, I think, eventually kind of calmed him down, and he just went and he meditated again for thousands of years. He was just not the same on the earth for Lord Shiva without his divine counterpart, with his incarnation of Shakti. And so it was thousands and thousands, millenniums of years later that Shakti then incarnated again as Parvati, who would become Shiva's divine counterpart. But he wouldn't really recognise her at first. She, similar to Sati, had the dreams and was drawn, and her soul recognition found when she met Lord Shiva, and she was devoted to him and would leave food and cater to him while he meditated. But he wouldn't recognise her. So some of the gods got together and they spoke to the god of love, the Indian god of love, I can't remember the name. But he, begrudgingly, because he knew what was going to happen here, went to the cave to see Lord Shiva, and while he was meditating shot an arrow to his heart, which landed, and to open up his heart space again. Again with the green dragonfly, talking about opening, a rising of the heart and opening of the heart space. And when he did that, the reaction from Lord Shiva was very powerful from his third eye in the upper chakras. The third eye burned this god of love, which he kind of knew when he was going in that this could be the reaction. But eventually Shiva would recognise Parvati's devotion, and they would have children, one of which is Lord Ganesha. So the reason for this story is it's talking about for yourself. You may be this kind of hermit, you may be this person, you're in the world, but you feel like you want to go from it sometimes, and that you'd rather be in cosmic space, meditative space, but you're still here as part of the world, and Lord Shiva was still intervening and through his avatars in the world when was necessary, but would be in that meditative space. And you may also have a divine counterpart that brings you to people. Parvati was always encouraging him to engage with his devotees and be part of the world as well, which he became more and more. So there could be that divine counterpart that really kind of changes your aspect of how you are in the world in a positive, constructive, in a divine sense. So with that, I'm going to take some tarot cards first from the Astro Matrix to see what the message from Spirit is today on top of all of that. I'll take maybe a couple more. That's too many. I'll take that one. The bottom of the deck there is the Ten of Cups, but I'm not going to take that one. I'll take one more. Spirit. 2? Okay. And it says 2, it's 2. So, the first kind of 2 cards that came out were the Page of Pentacles and the Two of Pentacles. Interestingly, the Two of Pentacles is Jupiter and Capricorn, which is quite strong in the card that this talks about balancing. It's balancing your life, and you can see the focus on here. There's the yin yang necklace on this lady. It's all about balance, all about balancing your internal and your external, your personal and your outward facing, your social life in the world, or your working face to the world, work and love. It is all about balancing everything in this material realm, and there's these choppy waters as well. So through the choppy waters, you're trying to ground whatever it is you're trying to bring in, whether that's a love partner, work, or life, really. And with that, you're getting ideas, you're getting inspiration. Page of Pentacles, you're just kind of starting to build the farm. And there will be inspiration coming to you if you're open to it. The universe will give you practical ideas. It will give you ideas to create and manifest, and you have to kind of follow through with those. The goat as well, Capricorn, and not that this card is Capricorn, but it talks about kind of climbing that mountain. There's a mountain in the background. It's, you know, you're on that journey of the next project, the next phase in your life, and there is abundance in that. There is light and joy in there. There is warmth. There is embracing your inner child. There's purity. There's the sun. And you could be calling again in a divine partner. This Ten of Cups showed that didn't really want to come out in this case, and that's probably because you're just starting the journey with the Two of Cups. You may have found your swan, your divine counterpart. Love has no bounds, like the 2 women in this card of different colours. It doesn't really matter, because true, deep, spiritual love is not based on material aspects. Of course, it has an effect. Of course, you have to balance out your life individually and together. But true love, deeper love, let's say, not necessarily true. Love can be true in many forms, but deeper, more spiritual love, it crosses those bounds. And this is where you're just starting to. There may be somebody who you'll have in mind, or somebody who will come in, and you will share each other's cups reciprocally. Again, this talks to the emotion and the holding of hands in this partnership. It's at its beginning. Some of the nicest stages, like the honeymoon period, but you're looking to create foundation with this. And if it's someone who doesn't match that, then you're willing and you're ready to allow space for the person that will. Because you want this. You want a life full of brightness and joy, genuinely so. And with that is the Knight of Wands. So this could be somebody coming in who's quite fiery and passionate. This could be you quite fiery and passionate. And you're following your passions. And this is interesting, because I was thinking yesterday that a lot of relationships in the modern world are based on material aspects, that you work at the same place, somebody that there's a financial, maybe an unwritten, and maybe an unspoken kind of agreement that it's all very practical, that you could have a stable, financial, practical life together. Well, one of the strongest ways to find love is by being somewhere where you're in your passions, by meeting someone in an area where you're doing something you're passionate about. That might be your job, but it might not. It might be spiritual circles, it might be salsa classes, it might be art classes, it might be a spoken word event. But when you follow your passions and you drive with them, this is saying fire of fire, but I often see the knights as air of fire. When you move with those passions, and you're bold and you're courageous, core is the heart. So courageous means when you lead from the heart, and this is following the drive of your soul. then you can bring in meaningful, progressive, and life-changing love. Okay, let's see for who from the Divine Masters would like to, elaborate on that message. So Hilarion came, again, he was in one of the other reads, Divine Emergence. This is talking about you emerging into the world. The Two of Pentacles are sitting me with that. Balancing out your divine gifts. Be seen and let the world know your gifts. So it's giving a sense of coming forward a bit more in life, as well as just with somebody else or a romantic partner. It's you coming forward, it's you emerging like that dragonfly. And you're evolving. So you've got evolution vibration from the Atlanteans. You've got an old soul vibe to you. Your soul remembers different ways. You have an element of you being connected to your higher self in the 5D. Legacy, technology, progress, expect acceleration. I think that speaks for itself, that you are moving forward in your life. You are accelerating. And with that is Hanuman. Mentioned earlier that one of the most famous avatars of Shiva was Hanuman, the devotee of Ram, who is an incarnation of Vishnu. But this is often seen with, these hands is often seen with Shiva as well. So again, coming back to like being the healer. Let God's love hold you in strength. This is asking you to have faith. Having faith and belief, opening of the heart chakra, use and power, a little bit of the yellow in the solar plexus, but being that healer and having that strength. And the strongest thing, it's hard to describe it, the strongest thing we can have as human beings is faith and channeling the divine, because that's a higher power can work through us, and we can do more as human beings than things that we can conceive within our egoic mind only. This is with the love and strength of the divine, and you embodying a sense of a Lord Shiva or Jesus Christ or any kind of figure that has that divinity just within yourself, as much as is really humanly reasonably possible. But that's more than most people can imagine, and you are this kind of devoted warrior of the light of source. I'll take a message from the dragons as well. Okay. This came out the other day, and I'm going to just take the one, confidence. Solar plexus energy. It could be your realising your power, realising your boundaries, being confident in who you are. There's a lot of yellow. The sun energy, a lot of solar plexus energy. The yellow on this card, obviously the pentacles yellow. The yellow in the hands. Even the evolution here is yellow around the blue, so spiritual strength. Yellow with the sun. Yellow all over this card. You're moving forward with strength. You're moving forward with your passions and with belief that you're going to create a life that is going to do something to change this earth. The mountain in the background gives me a sense of Mount Kailash as well. So you're standing strong as an individual, as who you are, and through your spiritual connection. So I'll round it off with any messages from the ancestors. Maybe one more. Yeah, okay. Bottom of the deck is Jumbie, total disruption, death. There's change, there's transformation. You probably already know that. You probably feel that you're going through that. But this is necessary to clear out the old and come into the new. It's eclipse season. Tomorrow is a full moon in Pisces, and it's full moon eclipse, lunar eclipse. So big changes are abound. And with that, you're asked to explore. So root of air is the Page of Swords, but this is saying you're moving forward with strength, you're moving forward cutting cords, you are letting go of what no longer serves you, and taking kind of, the hands here, information from the divine. You're taking higher information and going forward with it in your life, because you're looking to create something higher, and you need to have a sense of that in your mind, for that then to come out in your actions and just with your intentions in the physical. Dragonflies also give me a sense of the swords and the mind, the way that they move and their wings and being of the air. So you're learning that it's your unique mind and the way you think, and the downloads that you get are actually kind of one of the most potent things. It's number 33 as well, which gives a sense of ascended masters guiding you, and you being a channel and being an ascended master yourself. You have that kind of knowledge that not all beings have in this lifetime. And with that, you're looking for fertile ground. This is Queen of Pentacles, Mother of Earth here. So you're looking for the fertile ground. You're looking to where this can grow and flourish, and where you can find abundance. And again, the yellows of you standing in your strength and power, you being this grounded divine, feminine, divine, masculine mix of both, is going to, well, make miracles, but help this earth. And so there's a lot to look forward to. I wish you the best in all areas of your life and wherever you go with this, and look out for any signs, whether it's dragonflies or ladybirds or divine beings that come to you, because you are this powerful channel, and you're moving forward to embody it as we go through these changes and these seasons that are going to bring you forward to the world in a strength that maybe hasn't been seen before. Okay, all of my love. Namaste.